All right,
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you happen to stand in the Truth Bomb Riff. My name is Patrick Lovell, and I'm joined by my colleague Roseanne Rabiola Mile, who has really taken the internet by storm recently with her unbelievably engaged, enraged execution and proclamation of Rosanna Dana as she completely decompartmentalized and rug pulled the Trump idiocracy in the MAGA frickin' universe that it serves. And I highly recommend everybody to check it out. But what she's requested we do in this degree of outreach is try to connect on Zoom with some of the folks that we've connected with on BlueSky that have become active in our hope to connect with folks to help deliver some of the information that we know after years and years of effort is the thing that nobody can A, understand for the most part, and B, grip their heads around because if they did, and I'll give you this corollary as I've been kind of sifting through social media today, particularly as it relates to the fusion of mainstream and social media. The New York Times, which I've read frequently, probably for the last 14 years, I think I've had an online subscription, paid subscription to the New York Times. And I used to read it religiously, thinking they were the nation's paper of record and the gold standard of journalism. Unfortunately, over that course of time, because of my own work, that led me to the con and to what ultimately we're revealing. And because I happen to work with a lot of folks at the New York Times, I was able to get an inside understanding that, well, the nation of papers of record has really done a horrific job of revealing the nuclear the nuclear revelation of unbelievable cataclysmic corruption that has completely overrun our country, which is where we came from for literally the past 13 years to aggregate at the cost of millions and millions of dollars because the New York Times and everybody else in mainstream media failed to do their job. And I'll get it to the point of why I'm telling you that, but it's primarily what everybody's talking about at the moment. Epstein and Trump and the list and everything cover up. But even the New York Times, in its best effort at the moment, which is to cover wall to wall more Epstein than it has over the course of the last 20 years, it's still barely touching what most people online in the internet ecosphere have gotten. Now, there's a lot of stupid sources out there, but there's some really damn good sources as well. And mainstream, literally for decades, could not touch the Epstein story. It was kryptonite. They went out of their way to avoid it like the plague. But now, because MAGA is absolutely devouring itself, it's falling on its own petard, that sort of thing, that suddenly they can use it in an expanse to embarrass, let's just say Trump. Not to say anything outside of what anybody on this side of the equation knows. Trump humiliates and embarrasses himself on a daily basis beyond comprehension. And the fact that this clown is our president is beyond comprehension. Rosanna Dan over here did one of the most marvelous takedowns of him the other day. But I use that as kind of an entry point because I consider Trump Epstein the gateway drug. Because what I've been revealing recently, and I think more importantly than anything, is that Trump has declared the Democrats have used documentation fabrication, falsification of records, forgeries to set him up. That's what's going to happen with the DOJ. That's what's happening in mainstream. As we see mainstream like CBS and 60 Minutes and everything basically capitulate because, of course, the CEO who inherited the company from her former husband, who just wants to make a massive deal with this guy who is one of the biggest tech people on the face of the planet, Larry Eliason, and his son in a company called Skydance. They want to do a $16 billion mega merger. They're like, fucking truth, what truth? And then they fire Colbert and all the rest of it. Okay. This is all ancillary stuff that is connected to everything that we're talking about because what we've been doing the whole time, what Roseanne has joined me on this crusade years ago, is to be like, people, you can't hear us. You don't know what's going on. There has been a massive, massive, massive conspiracy involving tens of thousands of employees in the financial sector, tens of millions of felonies and documentation fraud that facilitated what we bring to the table first and foremost, which is the full scope of the 2008 great financial crisis and what it means and what happened in the aftermath. But the ultimate revelation is that the government of the United States, right now under Donald Trump, is nakedly a RICO enterprise. It's racketeering, influence, corrupt organization at the Supreme Court, in Congress, in the media, at the FBI, at the DOJ, at the Federal Reserve. The entire system is massively, massively corrupt. And suddenly, now MAGA is looking at the Attorney General of the United States and going, oh my God, wait a second. She's lying to our faces about the Epstein file. They said they had 1,000 agents on this. They said that they knew, where the list was. They were going to reveal all of this stuff. And suddenly they're not doing it. And so they go absolutely insane. But it also reflects the reality of the algorithm. Now, the algorithm is different for BlueSky, which is different from Facebook, which is different from Google,
X,
which is
yeah.
different from YouTube, which is different from X, and so
Brand.
forth. Each one of these operations have their own algorithm. But what it effectively reveals is that the algorithm is both an echo chamber and an influencer of how things are going. And to that point, and this isn't the whole reason we're talking about it, but I got to set this whole thing up with this long runway because never in a million years, one of the things that I would never say, and I hate it more than anything else, is when people, especially in media, especially these idiots like Don Lemon and some of these others that are kind of the jokesters that fell from mainstream media that like to pretend like they're relevant, but they've never been relevant. They just are echo chamber idiots that do personality access bullshit. They've never been investigative journalists, which is why we had to do what we did to discover the largest gang rape in history, which led to what is the reason everything is the way it is. But never in a million years on my bingo card, never in a million years would I thought I'd say this, that I've got this confusion about my bingo card because I never would have ever thought about it. But this rises to the level in my world of what it is and why I'm saying it. Never would I saw Rupert Murdoch of Fox and Elon Musk be really kind of flawed heroes in a sense to be able to basically rug pull MAGA and all things deep state, even though they're going to toy everybody because Peter Thiel's involved and everything else, and it's even deeper than that. But they've rug pulled Donald Trump with the Wall Street Journal. They have set it up such that they can basically make Donald Trump a lame term, and they can make him useless even though he's already done so much goddamn damage. I think it might take generations. But what people need to understand is that Donald Trump is not the causality of all the stuff. He's the consequence. He was just an idiot that was sending sickening love letters to Jeffrey Epstein about underage women and their pubic hairs, as we just saw revealed on Friday. Oh my God. And not to mention all the disgusting antics that they did with probably just, being involved with old men, sleeping with minors. I mean, which is obviously a crime, which really impacts tens of millions of Americans in a very weird way, by the way. I mentioned like many of them were victims of this stuff in some way. I don't know that, but I'm just suggesting it. So long ramp up to set the table that we're in the midst of some major shit going on. And here we have this woman who I think her name is JB, and her call name and her
Handle.
her handle on BlueSky is Jen Express, right?
Jen Expresses.
Jen Expresses, and I've been so incredibly
whatever, it's okay.
Jen Expresses. I've been so appreciative of your efforts to help us get some of this information out there, and so now I'll turn it to you guys. But I'll say this as my last piece as you guys move forward in this whole thing. Unless and until tens of millions of people are equipped with the truth that we have, we can't pierce the bubble of the algorithm. First and foremost, we need people in the streets. We need people up, but we've laid this whole thing out, soup to nuts. We've literally got the information, the $90 billion a year apparatuses of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Department of Justice, the FBI, the SEC, in all manner, shape, or form of AGs weren't able to do, while the Federal Reserve backdoored tens of trillions of dollars illegally, while the courts enabled tens of millions of felonies to basically destroy tens of millions of people that got caught up in a gang rep of monumental proportions that is so much larger than Epstein. But at the same time, everybody's fixated on the cover up and that they're lying. Oh yeah, they're lying, my friends. Just wait till you get your head around the truth. So on that note, please continue.
Bingo.
They're
Bingo.
lying about everything.
That's right. That's see, and that's Patrick. The wrap up kept solidifying what was it that got Jen to follow our material on Blue Sky. Jen, do you remember what it was? Was it a particular post? Was it the Clean New Deal meme? Do you remember exactly what it might have been that
I
drew
was,
you into following me and following Patrick on Blue Sky?
well, here's the deal. I was on Blue Sky. I think November's gonna mark a year, if I have that right, this coming November. And so I went on there trying to find um, credible sources, like-minded people. I ditched um, Twitmo is what I call it, or X. I just deleted my accounts, got on Blue Sky, and so I just started going to the Discover and tried to find interests, and there was like the mainstream media like ABC and CBS and all that, and I was like, yeah, I'm not really into those anymore because I noticed the shift in 2016, believe it or not. Back in 2016, when that grifting windbag was, about to steal his first election, he I just knew they were lying. And I had a really good friend and she had a boyfriend. They split up, but she just was kind of passive. She didn't really, I guess, not to sound mean. Well, okay, fuck that. Okay, she didn't have a mind of her own. All right. And so when he'd come over and he'd take over, he'd switch. We'd be watching like ABC News or whatever. He'd come in, sit down, grab the remote, and change it to fucking Fox. And then I knew right there that, oh my God, they're lying. They're dirtbags. They're lying. So I knew that. So anyway, back to fast forwarding through all the lies and Trump stealing the election and then the insurrection. And I felt totally powerless, right, with that. So then, with the insurrection, and then Biden got in, it was kind of a smooth 4 years, but I still tried to stay within the game, and try to keep up on things. And then he stole this last election, and I know he cheated. And so during that time, I had joined Blue Sky, and then I was looking for credible outlets other than the mainstream media. And I came across first Mueller, she wrote, and then Mark. I'm not
Oh,
sure if I'm saying his name right. Mark Elias, is that how you say
yeah,
his last name?
yeah.
Okay, Mark Elias. So I started following them, and then I was just picking up followers and following people that I remembered from Twitmo, and then just kind of, and then I think it was about maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I think I stumbled on you. I was like, oh, hey, what the heck is this? This, all right. So then I started following you guys and then, posting everything and you, um, very, in tune and you're not afraid to say, what's on your mind. And that's what we need. And that brings me to back because I was looking for something to where instead of just griping and venting online, going to protests, doing my passion of designing to kind of keep me sane with my political stuff on Redbubble and all that. But I okay. So what got me kind of backtracking a little bit, the day after the like I stayed up all night. And when it came across that he had won, I was like, I know he did. I swear to fucking God, he cheated. I know Musk helped him. So the day after the election, there was a petition to change.org. And I had posted it I signed it and I posted it on Facebook and I posted it on Blue Sky. And so then all of a sudden I got these messages, you sent us a broken link. It's not, how come we can't open the link? We can't sign the petition. I went to it, 404 error, and then change.org's message was, this is embarrassing, but your page cannot be found. So well, that's fucking bullshit. So I started my own petition through change.org. And so then a day later, that was also taken down. So I knew I just know he cheated. And then I've had people tell me, grow up. My brother, um, back in Michigan, he is a staunch Trump supporter. And he's trying to get my disabled brother, who's afraid of him, to join the campaign to pay into this fund for Trump monthly. And he's on disability. And I'm just like, you can't do it, bro. You can't do it. And it's just feeling powerless. I need operations or outlets like you, the Clean New Deal and the new Untouchables, to be able to just kind of keep a grip or get notifications or stories on what's going on, because you can't. ABC, and I do check those every now and then because I want to get an alert when I wake up tomorrow that that grifting windbag is pushing up dirt. But that'll never happen. That's the only way we're going to get rid of him. That's the only way we'll be rid of him is when he's pushing up daisies. And we're so powerless. And then with the new alligator Alcatraz and the war against women and the ICE and the corrupt DOJ and the corrupt SCOTUS. Oh my God, this just makes me sick to my stomach. And I'm so angry and I can't do a fucking thing about it. What can we do? We can write till we're blue in the faces. We can protest, which I do, which I left my 8647 cap out in the car. Otherwise, I'd be wearing that right now. Maybe if you invite me to another meeting, I'll make sure I have that.
Can
But
I pick up on what you're asking and just interlude there real quick? Because I think that's the most important question. What can we do?
yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna briefly recap, just even though okay, so again, going back to what I happened to say at the beginning, it registered with you. What do you remember if anything specifically registered or the whole thing registered, what I mentioned?
pretty much the majority of it registered, and it's just what sick from the get-go. And everybody knew the Epstein files. Everybody has known about this stuff for years, like you
Right,
said.
decades. Okay, so
And
so this is what we say all the time, right? And this is kind of our entry point where we're trying to set the table for regular people out there. And I am so grateful, uh, JB, that you've expressed this because that frustration is what I think's got an immense hold on most people. Because most people, of course, live in the four walls of their existence. I loved hearing the story about your brother, both brothers, the internal mechanics of your family, and kind of the struggle within. See, because that legitimizes what I've been thinking the whole time because I see it happen in my family. I see it happen in many others' family. We all have to go to work. The world spends the same amount of time for all of us. We have to sustain ourselves. We have to live within the reality of whatever our existence is. But yet we know when something's wrong. And so when people have been saying for now, I'm going to say well over a decade, that we all know the system is corrupt. We all know the system is rigged, but nobody knows who did what, when, and how to fix it. And that's really the problem because media A is not designed to tell us the truth. And media is definitely not designed to give us pathways forward. Now, you would think the political parties would have the mechanics and the wherewithal to discover lightning in a bottle to build a populist response to what we now all see is complete naked corruption. See, that's the thing I have to, thank Trump and the powers that be within that fold at this moment with all things Epstein is they can see the corruption so clearly at the Department of Justice, which is the single most powerful law enforcement mechanism in the United States. Of course, it's part of the executive branch. They've got the guns. They've got the freaking FBI. They've got the all of the mechanics of all of the heavy firepower of the United States under their purview, including, by the way, ICE and sheriffs and everybody else. They're the ones
National
who
Guard.
National Guard. Well, no, because that's under the purview of the presidency, and the presidency, because of what
Right.
the Supreme Court did, and Pam Bondi is now uplifting, is that because of the corrupt Supreme Court, which we now know has been getting backdoored literally billions of dollars to the Justice Court through a back door at the Supreme Court. There's a literal, I mean, it's almost too funny. There's a entrance to the Supreme Court that only these oligarchs have access to. And I'm talking about the Leonard Leo wing of what many think of as the what's the extreme Catholic diocese that we saw in Dan Brown's, the guys where they were whipping their back. Anyway, there's this extreme, they've been around for a long time within the Catholic Church. There's this real extreme sort of dedicated, very violent sect of the Catholic Church. This guy, Leonard Leo, is a part of that. So for people that are seeing, for example, this situation in the United States where we have billionaires involved with the Christian right and the theocracy that connects the two, that's the bridge that overtook the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, as long as a year ago, determined that American history isn't real when they etch a sketch the 14th Amendment, Section 3, when they threw out Colorado's response to say that Donald Trump can't be on the ballot to run for office because the 14th Amendment, Section 3 says clearly if you're involved with an insurrection, you can't run for the presidency.
I
And, and,
remember
this,
that.
and the Supreme Court's like, no, you can't determine the national election. Bullshit. The fucking, that's exactly how it works. They use the exact same thing to basically turn the tables on what is it? Not the Dobbs, right? The Dobbs decision. The states led the way to basically overturn Roe v. Wade, right? And they did so they just flipped it. The point that I'm making here as kind of a bridge is that what Americans need to come to grips with as soon as possible is that when you work in corporate America, when you work in a financial operation, when you work for a tall building law firm, when you work with a system of very capable, smart, but also clever and very viciously ambitious people, which all of those types of verticals have, I have learned and discovered that integrity means nothing. They're willing to do anything in the revolving door to get theirs and stay relevant and rise in the levels of these institutions, which they have all betrayed the American people. Now, the bridge to your point, which is the most important point, what can you do? Because I've been a part of the No Kings rallies. I was part of the 50501 rally, and I've gone out and protested long before my first journey was with the Occupy Wall Street movement, where I made my first documentary. I went coast to coast to 33 Occupy Wall Street encampments, and I made my first documentary film, not as an activist, but trying to learn what the hell was going on in the country. And what I've learned through activism is that you can only accomplish so much with activism. However, activism is extremely important, but activism also has to be tied to those in the system, be they professionals like attorneys, former state attorney generals, or former prosecutors that we have built in the new Untouchables. These aren't regular Joes that don't know the system. They are the system. We're talking about the highest level prosecutors at the Department of Justice that were responsible for taking down Enron, WorldCom, tens of thousands of white collar executives. William K. Black came out of the Department of Justice. There was also with the Office of Thrift Supervision, but he created the notion of control fraud because he saw how the whole thing works, which is a vertical where the CEOs can, lean on everybody down like a criminal organization to lie, steal, and cheat so they get more money. It's that
Well,
simple.
I heard they were also by going internal to companies, getting on the boards as
Absolutely.
CEOs at the companies, and destroying companies from within, so their rich billionaire buddies can pick up these companies
On the cheap.
pennies on the
That's part of
dollars.
it. That's part of it. That's called
This
mergers and acquisitions, and that's typically run through what we call with private equity as a big player in this, or hedge funds and others. But private equity is the main guy. They've been doing that since the 80s, okay? But this is what people need to understand, first and foremost. So, JB, you have a lot of incredible instincts. In your world, how important is money?
Well, I need to have a roof over my head. Um,
Okay. But
and
can you
I mean,
do
I wouldn't
anything
want to be, pardon?
keep going.
I know I'm never going to be like filthy stinking rich, but if I was, I wouldn't be like Musk or anybody else. But it's imperative to be able to survive and not have to work two or three jobs, just to make ends meet,
Right.
and try to,
Does anything happen without money is the point.
say that again.
Does anything happen without money? I mean, we could talk about bliss after reading a book that you got at the library where it feels great. You could go walk on the beach for free and everything else. But in terms of society itself and organization and structures in the way things get done, how imperative is money?
Well, unfortunately, it's pretty damn imperative. And
Wouldn't you
I,
say it's pretty much everything?
uh, well, I'd say the majority of everything. I mean, you have things in life, like family and pets and things like that, but you need money to take care of your family and pets and
That's right.
yourself.
So my point in this analogy is that money is a lot like fire. It can be good or bad. Money is just really nebulous, to be quite frank with you. It's just a means to an end, right? You need something at the grocery store. You need to save your life. You need to fuel your car, whatever. It's just a modicum of, it's a currency of
Survival
exchange.
for the majority of us.
Right, right. So, unless of course you're independent, you live off the land, you make your own food, you make your own, where you don't need anything, and few and far of it. Even on my best day, if I was completely committed to that, I couldn't do that for a long period of time. I can only do that for. My point being is, it's hard to live without society. So, society has a function, but my point, and this is the broader point that I'm trying to make. We all know money is really the lifeblood of the economy.
Yes.
And so, what is the construction, the engineering, the entire sort of apparatus of society, particularly government? It has structures. It has absolute structures, and you pay people to manage those structures depending on what those particular institutions may be it the Federal Reserve, the FBI. Everything has its own sort of modus operandi. But my point is that everybody can understand that money is as about as important as breathing, quite frankly, for this society to function. So what we discovered was that there are crimes, there are elements, there are statutes on the books, as we all know. If you're speeding and you get pulled over, you get a ticket that you've got to pay because that is the consequence of the crime, and there's different degrees. Okay, your first offense is one thing, your second offense is another. Add in if you go drinking and driving, it gets more expensive to the point that you no longer drive, right? That's the consequence, or you go to jail. Same with everything up the spectrum, right? Now, we all operate with laws in society. We don't think that we can do whatever we want. Like, we can't pick up a gun and go shoot somebody in the face that we don't like because there's a consequence for that action. That's called the law. Now, unless you're completely like non-functioning, that we know this just to be the basic construct of society. Money, law. Okay? Those two things are absolutely central to the functionality of society. What we discovered was, because everybody's asking the question, think about this. Everything is rigged, and the whole, what did we say at the very beginning? What did I say at the very beginning? That everybody knows the system is rigged, and what was the other part of that, Roseanne, that I said? It'll come back to me in a second if you can't think of it.
I know a
There's,
lot of them are above the law.
well, that's what I'm getting to, because the general populace writ large knows that the system is corrupt and everybody's rigged, and the system is rigged. They don't know who did what, when, and how to make it happen. That's the forest for the trees, that the curtain that we're pulling back to show Oz. And so ultimately, using the parable again, the whole country's talking about one way or another because of the algorithms, Epstein and the cover up, and they see that there's corruption at the Department of Justice. What we discovered was that tens of millions of people were set up in a global racketeering scheme that's organized, or RICO. Jesus Christ, I'm going off on a tangent. The Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organization Act, okay, which is like the motherlode law, right? It's an umbrella, it's a statute that you have to have two predicate acts to prove a criminal organization. And there's different ways they do that. Racketeering, lying, deception, thieving, basically are some of the constructs of it. But we have laws to remedy that problem. But what we discovered was our entire financial system. that controls the money, it's called Wall Street. They do private equity, they do hedge funds, they do asset management, they do too big to fail banks. Everything to do with everything to deal with money comes from our financial sector, which is Wall Street. Okay. And they are organizations. And at the head of those organizations are CEOs. They're the guys that are in control. We, because we see them come out of Ivy League schools, they wear beautiful suits, they live in penthouses, they speak with intelligence, they imbue credibility, they come across as somebody that we look up to as being the sort of foundational success, right? They rose through the ranks, they become the heads of the chiefs to be able to manage these mammoth operations. What we discovered was they're managing these operations based on crime, based on massive crime, based on Jeffrey Epstein-like crime is one of them. In fact,
Corruption to its fullest.
it is completely corrupt to the point that the Department of Justice, the FBI, the Securities and Exchange Commission, all of them were completely powerless, like you said at the outset. You
And
feel
see,
powerless.
that's the
They were,
thing. I don't mean to interrupt you, Patrick, but that's the thing is by just thin little strings, these lower level judges are holding the line barely for democracy to remain. But SCOTUS or the Supreme Court, they're chipping away at them. Pretty soon, they already have like like Dodge and stuff. They already have our personal info. Dodge is gonna the Supreme Court is gonna shut these judges down. What the fuck are we gonna do,
okay,
Patrick?
but this
What
is
are
what
we
I'm
gonna
getting.
do?
Okay, this is beautiful. This is beautiful because this is the answers that we offer. So in that corollary, the Supreme Court are basically effectively the CEOs, right, of the law.
Oh
That's the
yeah.
idea. And you don't get to be a Supreme Court justice unless you have years and years of experience. You come up through the ranks
And
through the appellate courts, you get chosen. But what we learned was they were chosen for political outcomes because they were malleable. I'm talking about the Roberts Court. We're talking about Clarence Thomas. This didn't happen overnight. This is over decades. Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, of course, Roberts, Kavanaugh, and they all
they were
were.
groomed for it.
That's exactly right. Okay, so what do you do? This is the thing. What do you do when the Supreme Court of the United States is owned by criminals to make criminal decisions? Okay, so what would
Uh-oh,
the
I
founder?
lost you guys.
Can you hear
Something
me?
happened.
Are
Can you hear
you,
me?
Yeah, something happened. I guess I don't know what happened. I'll have to rejoin. What the heck?
we can
Hold
hear,
on, don't leave me. Yeah, hold on. I don't know what happened. I just turned for a second and I lost you.
we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
We
Okay,
can
hold on a
hear you.
second. Okay, there we are.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
I
you
don't
can
know
hear
what the
me?
heck happened. I turn around to grab a piece of paper. Got it. And it just went. Okay, can
Can
you guys
you?
hear me now?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Okay, yes. All right,
Okay,
sorry about that.
no
You were
problem.
out
Let
of
me
roll.
continue. So, well, yeah, because what I'm telling you is you asked the fundamental question, what can we do? And so I have seen and I have been upfront and personal with the No Kings rally, which got over, I think, 10 million people nationwide. Same with the, if I didn't say No Kings, I meant No Kings and then 50501, hands off. They've gotten millions of people to the streets. And what the signs say are exactly what you're asking. And everything that I'm saying. They're asking the who did what, when, and how. How did these billionaires control the system? How did they gut through Doge if there were a nation of laws? All of these things. And they keep asking these questions, thinking we're going to have free and fair elections again. And I'm glad you watched Mark Elias because I do not think we're going to ever have free elections again, free and fair elections again. I think the same fraud that you said at the very beginning, and yeah, Trump, we do know at the very basic level that in the swing states, based on old Jim Crow laws that are still on the books, that they purged up to 3.5 million uh, names of minorities in swing states, which would have been the difference in the election, which was 2 million. Okay, it's a national election, so that they stole it just based on that. But then you got to ask yourself, why didn't Biden and Harris fight that? Well, because they work for the frickin'
Why didn't
oligarchs.
she?
Because they work for the oligarchs. That's what I'm telling you. Who are the oligarchs? They're the billionaires that own the system, and
None.
they're the
Problem
guys
is
who
she won. The numbers didn't add up. There are
I
so
know
many swing states that he won were Democratic lower tier. They won the elections,
he
but it's
stole it.
really weird how it could be blue, but then freaking Trump won. That's bullshit.
He
That's
stole it, but
lies.
he didn't just steal it alone. Who's he been working with? Well, okay, yeah, we know Elon Musk is one side of it. I don't know what happened with all of the Starlink terminals, whether or not they were in boost, and whether or not that was enough to, I never. The only way you would find out is to do an investigation. Well, who's going to do the investigation? Well, the
They
Department of
won't
Justice,
allow it.
the Department of Justice and the FBI should do the investigation. But who are they run
They're
by?
corrupt.
They're run exactly. So what do we do? This is exactly. Thank you. What do we do? What would the American founding fathers do? It's a rhetorical question. They would have a revolution. What do the Civil
You took the
War
words
do?
out of
Well,
my
the
mouth,
Civil
Patrick.
right. Okay. Now, how many of us are going to go pick up our muskets, being rhetorically, and go, not shoot until we see the white of our eyes, right? All that kind of stuff. Look, Americans can't even tie their shoelaces together based on corruption, let alone come out of their phone where they could watch whatever they watch, right? Whether it's sports, whether it's something to make them not know about this stuff, and they can forget about it until when? Right? Nobody cares about anything. This goes about to the four walls of our existence. Nobody cares about anything until they themselves get fucked, until they lose their job, until they lose their pension, until they lose their freedom, until they lose their liberty. And that's happening all over the place. But apparently, they still like, give me more, boss. Give me more. I want it. I love to be able to have my nation that I inherited, that I never had to fight for, to be stolen, to given to a bunch of junkie con men. Why do I care? Look, I can still see my porn if I want to, and I can still go to the gas station and get my gas, and I can go get my grocery store, and I can put it on my my credit card, and then I can complain that I've been in the same wages for the last 30 years, and my life's going nowhere, and I can question why my life sucks, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Okay, that's a conundrum for me, right? It always has been a conundrum because I'm a citizen. I believe in being informed and knowing what's going on. I've been, that guy my whole life. So as a result of being that guy and knowing how systems work and knowing structures and having interest in psychology, the law, geopolitics, history, and all of those things, that was the bed that I grew to be able to become an investigative journalist, to go on a journey that cost millions of dollars to go get these truths from the top people in the country. I did what the guys at the DOJ, the FBI, the SEC were supposed to do, and they have tens of thousands of people. They have tens of billions of dollars of budget, but they didn't because of corruption. But we did, and we've got the answers. And not only do we have the answers of who did what, when, and how, which we provide for free at thecon.tv, that anybody can watch for free. You can see the entire, crime that we put into stark view. That's entertaining to watch, nonetheless, if I do say so myself. But we got quashed by the Borg. We got quashed by the big money that wants to make sure that everybody out there can't understand the truth first and foremost. But then secondary to that, okay, now that you know the problem, what are you going to do if nobody's willing to offer a solution? Well, for years, we've decided we're going to put the solution together, which is the Clean New Deal. And I want to stop there and then let you guys kind of riff on that. But I will just say this last piece, okay? What do we do? It takes people like you to help get the word out, to get more and more people that are feeling like you, that need to understand, well, what's actually going on. What we're showing you is what's actually going on.
There's fear too, Patrick. There's fear. I have a few friends. It's so conservative. It just blows my mind. It just blows my mind how many conservative people are around me. And so you can talk to them till you're blue in the face. But there's a few friends that are blue, Democrat like me. And friend of mine, she brought up a very good point. they're all getting the names. They're all going to the local states, all the states, the DOJ is going to the states, and they're getting the names of the people for every county that voted Democrat. I'm afraid they're going to come after me.
So let me tell you this part, okay? So I've always framed everything that we're about that corruption creates fascism, okay?
Fear.
I I hate with every fiber of my being fascism because I believe above all else liberty and justice for everyone based on the integrity of the law. That's the United States, okay? That's what I know inside and out, and I know what fascism is. So what I'm saying is 1 out of 100 people is all we have to get. That's what we have to get because we don't care about the people who've got their heads in the sand. Let them have their heads in the sand. We need people that understand this is bullshit. And here's the biggest problem that I face personally every day. The people that are smart enough to know this stuff typically are part of the top 10%, right? A lot of these guys have got college degrees. They went and they became attorneys. Maybe they're doctors. Maybe they're accountants. Most of them are busy, right? But this society, I'm sorry, this economy, because of what we're revealing to you, has showered on the top 10% more gains over the last 15 years because we've backdoored tens of trillions of dollars illegally through the financial system that double down on assets. It's the fire sector. We call it the financial, insurance, real estate sector. That's who the Federal Reserve works for. Not full employment, not low interest rates. They fight for the asset class, and they provided tens of trillions of dollars illegally. And we have all the evidence in the Clean New Deal illegally. So imagine this, right? I'm going to give you an analogy here. I'll give you two analogies. Imagine you're in business. You want to start a Girl Scout troop and you want to sell Girl Scout cookies, okay? But you get greedy and you start selling fake Girl Scout cookies. And then you discover there's a bunch of suckers out there that are going to buy more and more Girl Scout cookies. And you incentivize a bunch of people to work for your troop where you're going to pay them commissions on selling liar Girl Scout cookies, but nobody knows about it until it's too late. And then the whole thing collapses and everybody loses all their money, except the whole time you've been pocketing a shit ton of money. And then all of a sudden you got a lot of money, and instead of the cops coming to you and saying, hey, you were lying, stealing, and cheating to your customers and we're going to take you down for crime, they come to you and they say, hey, don't worry about it, we're going to give you 10x what you made for free. You don't even have to pay interest on it. Okay, would you think that would be a just world?
No, absolutely not.
That's what we did in the financial system. They were completely bankrupt after the 2008 crisis because of their own derivatives and collateralized debt obligations and credit default swaps and all sorts of manner, shape, or form of what financial instruments. And they make it complicated because they don't want regular people to see you're getting lied to. And they did that.
It's like that, and then part of even with the tariffs, and that ties in with the corruption because the 1%,
Yes.
they're going to make it, and then he declared that executive emergency act. I'm not sure how that's worded, and then and isn't that supposed to be passed through Congress? I'm not
Right.
Congress.
I just don't
But
get that.
The Republicans are like, do whatever you want. The Supreme Court's like, do whatever you want. They can't stop it because
They
it's a
gave him the
numbers thing.
green light. Go.
Yes, that's right. Because they're all sitting on the sidelines watching the 14-year-old girls get raped by the rich guy. And they're like, don't do anything about it because they'll come after me and I can't get paid anymore because of what you just said. Fear. That's what you're facing. We're facing cowards, pathetic, gross people that if we were to use this for religious people in the construct of, let's call it the Armageddon / rapture, see, the irony of that story is it's like, oh yeah, the army of the wicked is going to destroy the world, and then the light of truth is going to exalt the righteous. That's the idea of that story. Think about how funny that is in context to what I'm telling you, to your religious brother. It's all the religious guys that are heathens that are lying, stealing, and cheating and standing on the sideline watching everybody get raped and pillaged and pretending it's not going to happen to them until it does. And it did. That's the thing about Doge. That's the thing about all of these things that are coming down the construct. It doesn't matter who you are, white, black, Republican, Democrat. everybody is getting crushed. So that's why we call it magic time, because that's when, sorry to use another biblical reference, the clouds part and the Red Sea parts, because this is exodus from corruption. When you have the clean new deal, you understand who did what, when, and how to change the system. It's not rocket science, it's racketeering. But we have to have millions and millions of people, because just like MAGA is demonstrating right now, nobody in mainstream media talked about Epstein until millions got pissed off. So they're showing us this is how you change the system in a democracy.
Somebody
Oh,
needs to
what?
leak that stuff. Somebody has copies of the tapes. Somebody has copies of the files. Somebody needs to get the stones and leak that stuff.
By
I
the
know
way,
if
Rupert
I had a
Murdoch is
copy,
doing
I'd
it.
be leaking it. What's that?
Rupert Murdoch is in the process of doing that.
Okay,
For
so what
real?
we,
Yeah, that's a
For
Friday.
real?
That's yes,
but
Is
that's
he
a dude.
supposed to do it by Friday?
No, listen to me. This is another part of this. This part is just I didn't
Sorry, I
have
thought
the,
you said Friday.
no, last Friday. I didn't have
Oh,
this on
oh,
my
all right.
bingo card. I said that earlier because I was laughing, because he is about as bad as they come. Okay, Rupert Murdoch is one of the worst
Oh,
villains, but
he's a slime ball.
yeah, but he was pissed that he got screwed in the insurrection and he had to pay $700 million, and now
Oh,
he's
yeah.
leaking the information and he's doing just what he does, which is what he's done like for 4 decades. He does sensation, salacious smut to sell newspapers. So he's telling everybody what he's showing everybody what Donald Trump did. So that's another gateway into this whole thing. But I want to finish with this real quick, and I want to let you guys rap about this, because it needs to be so taken to the heart, because we need vectors of truth. We need the guys to blast through the darkness with the mighty truth, with the courage that you know who did what and when, and how we're going to change the system. Because you can't just know what the problem is. That's like asking a surgeon, okay, can you figure out what's wrong with me? Oh, I've got cancer. Oh, okay, now what? Well, they diagnose the freaking, what you got to do to get rid of the cancer, which is typically nuke it with radiation, right? They got to take powerful answers to kill and metastasize the cancer that's metastasizing. So we've created the Clean New Deal that has the solutions. So I'll let you and Roseanne riff about it, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you, Patrick. I really do. I appreciate you, Roseanne, for bringing me in on this. I really appreciate that.
but now listen,
All right.
when you say, and it's beautiful that you went into Blue Sky to look for credible sources, and that Patrick and I were identified by you as credible sources. Now, we go in X, Twitter, whole different story. But I have, and Patrick has, both of us have a much more robust, bigger thinking audience on Blue Sky. So, what we need is we need people like you. We need people like some of the women who were going to come in and talk today. A couple of them had some emergencies, but like I say, life happens, right? Life happens. So what we have to do is, and I don't mean to sound say women are better than men, even though they are, but we are getting women to go out there. You can't r- learn to read unless you know the alphabet first, right? You got to know the alphabet. You got to start reading this kind of book first, then you go to the next, then you got to go to the next. So we have the blueprint for all of this, how these criminals got control, is in the con. So they go to the con.tv. Have you seen that yet? The con?
Not yet. Let me write. That's in your the
All,
con TV.
right. All you have to do is go to THECON dot TV. And
Say
it'll
say that the CO what?
CON dot TV. The con,
Oh, okay. That's I heard that right. All right.
the con dot TV. You go there, you put in your, name and address so you can have the link. They send you the link so you can see every episode. Okay.
Okay.
That is the blueprint of what's going, what has gone on, that continues to go on, that continues to give money illegally to criminals in suits with no shame. They have no shame. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care about you or me or Pitch. They don't care about anybody. Okay? They care about themselves. So it's incumbent upon us. We take the message to people, and what happens? You pick it up and you share it with 100,000 other people when you add up all their followers. They take the message and they share it. We don't have to get everybody, okay? We only have to get, and I know you've seen this when I do a post, this is for all the thinkers. This is for the thinkers, for the people who ask questions, for the people. You don't sit back, Jen. You don't just sit back and accept what anybody says. You go look, right? That's what you,
Yeah.
that's,
I can't. But I still feel helpless, but I share your stuff because I know you need to get more out there. You need to reach a larger
That's right.
uh,
But let,
uh
let me chap in here real quick, because I heard it's all
no,
about
no, I was just kidding. Go ahead.
it's
Go
all
ahead,
about,
Patrick.
and I love you, and I love what Roseanne's trying to do, and it is a learning process. But at the same time, there's this process because we're smart enough to know there's a problem, and yet it's like there's a lot of stuff in our minds, but it's like, what are you trying to tell me? But I got to get the words out of my mouth because I'm thinking about the process of how to get it to the person I'm talking to. Really, what we are trying to elevate through folks like yourself that what do you do about the Supreme Court and Congress and the Federal Reserve and the Department of Justice, who are all circling the wagons to protect a criminal while destroying you? That's the main center of focus at the moment, right? They're betraying you. And not only they're doing that, they're doing it with your money. They're doing it with your taxes to be able to destroy you. And most people in this country are like, well, wait a second. No way in hell am I going to let that happen to me. So, how do I get to a place that speaks to me without reacting to the social media because I'm sickened by the Jeffrey Epstein situation, yada, yada, yada? The 1 out of 10, maybe the 1 out of 100, quite frankly, that understand systems need to understand the precepts of the Clean New Deal, which Roseanne's about to go into. But what we are going to have to do, okay, is with this information, and I wrote this in the Clean New Deal about a year ago. My vision, it actually was 3 years ago. Roseanne had reminded me, where I had said that we're going to have a flash mob of 1 million people. Think of it as a civil rights like movement, like uh, MLK with the famous "I Have a Dream" speech. We're going to have to descend on Washington, D.C., and we're going to have to surround the Department of Justice. We're going to have to surround the FBI. We're going to have to surround Congress. We're going to have to surround um, the Federal freaking Reserve. And we're going to have to surround the White House. Now, does that sound dangerous given what we just saw in Los Angeles? I didn't think
Does
it was
sound
dangerous.
dangerous, and I gotta say something here, Patrick. The about 3 days after the after the election and when both of those petitions were taken down, I predicted that it's going to become like a civil war. It's going to become bloodshed, or there's going to be bloodshed. It's going to be the poor versus the rich.
Well, not
It's
yet,
going
right?
to be
What it's been
violence
is
is going to ensue.
agreed. But right, I think that might happen 100 years from now, given what I'm looking at now, because everybody who's on the wrong side of this, that are on the downside, they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. They have gone to the No Kings rallies, but I can tell you with the No Kings rallies, and one of my pet peeves with it, even though I was invited to be an engaged speaker, which was terrific and it was incredibly important. But nobody is identifying the answers to the questions that are on the signs around the country. We are. We have the answers of corruption. We know exactly. So, what I'm saying is that we have to have a flash mob of literally 1 million+ people. And I'm saying this is a peaceful protest. Let them bring out the freaking cannons. But we have got to get 1 million people to surround the institutions of corruption that are the people's institutions. And we've got to send the message on our signs, on our protest, organizing. The jig is up. You're not going to piss on our head telling us it's rain anymore because we're not your fool. We're enlightened, invigorated citizens of the United States who demand liberty and justice for all. And we're going to march in a unified way from all of those institutions against all odds to the National Mall to be under the gaze of Abraham Lincoln, who said at the Gettysburg Address afterwards, the Gettysburg Proclamation, that a nation up by and for the people shall not perish from the earth, across from the reflecting pool of MLK, who said, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It's our duty as the United States, the citizens of the United States, to rise with the information that we're giving you because they've all lied to you. The media has lied to you. Your government's lied to you. Your law enforcement has lied to you. They have become a fascist state. We are not fascist, America. You have got to rise for liberty and justice for all, or you will never see it again in your lifetime. And if not us now, then who and when? And so, sorry to raise my voice. It's not towards you,
No,
JB.
I
It's
agree
towards,
with you 100% because it's never going to happen if we don't do anything now. And
right.
so many of us feel powerful or powerless, but we have to do something now. I mean, we are the resistance and we need to step it up.
And we have to
Period.
rise with the truth, though, because what is the truth?
Exactly.
Who's delivering the truth? Have you heard that anybody ever tell you before? Have you heard anybody on CBS, 60 Minutes, the White House,
No, no.
DOJ, anybody tell you that the financial system have gotten $71 trillion illegally through the Federal Reserve, through our own institutions? Has anybody ever told you that?
No, and that's why I got on Blue Sky was to find
That's right.
credible sources.
That's right. And the fact is, I'm credible. And if you don't believe me, look for all
No,
of America. No, I know
I
you
wouldn't
do,
be
but I'm
sitting
saying
here if
to
I didn't.
I know I'm saying to the people that are watching, and thank you for that because it's the most important thing in the world because it's credibility and what we build on. But if you look at our work in the con, I'm surrounded by the greatest prosecutors in the history of the United States, the greatest regulators, the guys that hold corruption to account. They came out of Princeton, Yale, Harvard. I worked with the New York Times. I worked with ProPublica, the best of the best of the best. That's where we're coming from. We're not Alex Jones bifurcating hyperbole. We're not, some mishigas of Joe Rogan who's asking questions, but he has no idea where to start. We understand the government and the law and science and, psychology and quite frankly, history. That's our come from. And so go ahead and now I think on that note, Roseanne, please explain to JB and the audience what the precepts are. Why are we marching on those corrupt institutions, and what is our message to the American people?
The message of the Clean New Deal starts with asking yourself 4 questions. What is qualified immunity? That's where the police, the whomever has the mask on today and no identification goes out and grabs people and they can do whatever they want because nobody stops them. Cops do what they want. They kill people. Do they get prosecuted? No. So
Nope.
right? So we have to have an end to qualified immunity. We have to have an end to presidential immunity because we know what that means. That means SCOTUS has put him above the law. We have to stop judicial immunity, right? They're not above the law either, okay? And we have to stop the Electoral College, which can buy electors, right? Oh, Wyoming, with a few million people, has more power than California or New York. I don't think it was meant that way, right? They didn't mean it that way. It's supposed to be one person, one vote. Who gets the most votes wins the election, right? That's not what we're doing. We're we got this electoral college where those electors with the power whose votes have been influenced vote for who gave them money, who gave them houses, cars, whatever, right? Electoral college gotta go. So,
Oh, I've been saying that since
right?
freaking the 2000s,
That's right.
Since Gore lost.
Right. Okay. Yeah. See, we remember all that stuff. Now, we've got to have, all people have to do is go to the Clean New Deal. They'll see those 4 questions, and then they will see the precepts. They will see that we need a new Glass-Steagall Act that was totally taken away by President Clinton so that we can separate commercial banking from investment banking. When you do that and you're playing with other people's money, it's not the guys at the top who are doing the playing, it's you with your money that is losing. So we did away with that. Forget about that. Forget about rules. Forget about regulation. Take away regulation. Uh-uh. Regulation stops people from, as an example, going 100 miles an hour on an expressway, right? You have to have some type of regulation. Glass-Steagall, which went away with President Clinton, stopped what was going on during Franklin Roosevelt's first term. Okay. The next thing we got to do is we've got to get rid of Citizens United. Do you know anybody who thinks Citizens United is a good thing? No,
No.
right. No. You can't give unlimited funds to politicians and tell them what to do. And that's what happens. That's exactly what happens. And then nobody knows who's given what, but those people are giving it to both parties. It's not just one, it's both. The Republicans are more grotesque, okay? They are grotesque. They are awful. They will say anything. The vomit just comes out, okay? The Democrats are just nicer about it. but every
Yeah, and they're passive aggressive. They need to take the freaking gloves off for crying out loud.
okay, but everybody's taking money. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Agreed.
Everybody's taking money. We have to stop with the late.
I'm so sorry. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to see. I just want to ask you, Jen Express, if this registered what she said, because it gets a little bit convoluted sometimes when we're talking about Glass-Steagall and everything else. Do you think that if an arsonist was caught burning down a house, that we should pay him to uh, build a new house?
To build? No, no.
Okay, that's what she just said. That's what she just said. That's the whole point of creating a new
Oh
Glass-Steagall.
yeah, I know what she's saying, Patrick. I know I'm
Okay,
not the smartest pencil in the box here, but I get what she's saying.
I just want to make sure that
I
that
know I'm
because
your average person, but I understand what
please
she's saying.
please don't take it it was an insult to you. I'm saying it writ large, but I did want to know if it registered because I was watching your face in between, some other things, and I was like, this is like learning for me as well. And I'm like, because
Oh
I'm
yeah,
just
I'm
wondering
learning a
what,
lot.
yeah, I'm like wondering if people are understanding this because I just want people watching this to understand. And when you think back to this too, what we're revealing is so absurd. It's that simple to understand. But yet you've never heard that on
It
60
just
Minutes.
blows my mind.
You've never heard it from anybody in mainstream media. You've never heard it from any politician because they're getting paid to make sure you don't understand it. What they would do, like let's say you were talking to Bernie Sanders, for example, and I love Bernie as a human being. I love what Bernie has been able to accomplish,
Yep.
his whole career. But he always says the same thing on the stump. He says, "Look, we've got to have a revolution against the billionaires because they can't control the country, right?" And then he goes into everything from like just fixing the cost of drugs and seniors and all of the things that are important. But he never goes to this point, and this is what he actually knows, if you want to know the truth. The Democrats made a decision during Obama to save millions of people that had nothing to do with the financial crisis. So let's say you lived your life, appropriately. You never took off more than you could chew. You lived your life within your means. You did all the right stuff. Why should you be destroyed because of everything that was going on in the financial markets, right? They made a correlated decision to say, look, save the banks, save the infrastructure of the United States, save the top 10%. Don't worry about it. This is nobody knows what we're doing. Nobody's going to ask questions. We can get through this. We'll recapitulate. We'll recreate the economy. But that does not change the fact they gave tens of trillions of dollars to the arsonists. And now the arsonists took complete control because of that.
Yes.
But the thing is, to me, I grew up when I was a kid, I grew up seeing both Democrats and Republicans being corrupt. I saw people in the church being corrupt. I saw businesses being corrupt. So my mindset was always don't trust the establishment. Okay? That's it. So when I see the con that points out what people did and did not do, it all makes perfect sense to me. Because why in the world would the Obama administration, then the Trump administration, then the Biden administration? It wasn't just Obama. It started over there with
A minute, boo. Quin uh Quincy wants to go outside.
that again, babe.
My dog Quincy wants to go
Oh,
outside.
okay. Listen,
Um, it's
you
just a
know what
minute,
we're
but
gonna
Yeah,
do?
no, Roseanne, just push pause.
Okay.
so we're gonna be probably about just can you wait like 5 minutes, Quincy? Just a minute. He's like,
Why don't you take him out and come back?
You want to?
so all right, I'm gonna be about 10 minutes.
We can wait. I'll come back. Unless you want to finish up now, Roseanne, your choice.
Is that can we finish up now, guys? That way I won't be in a hurry to get back because he's gonna just a minute, baby love. So you want to come up so they can
By the
see you?
way, by the way, this
Can you
is
see him? Can you see him?
not yet,
You
not
gotta
yet.
unblur your screen. Oh, that's Sista's picture on Blue Sky. We're
Yeah,
gonna,
that's the Quincy Bincy. Only he's older, but he wants to go out. Do you
okay,
want to go out, baby love? He wants to go out and go potty.
okay.
Oh, dear.
We're gonna show you how we can spend $71 trillion better than on criminals and get rid of fossil fuel and have education and good housing and Medicare and not spend it on criminals. Okay. We can we can then we have to get rid of qualified immunity, presidential immunity, judicial immunity, and set up for them rules that will be enforced and put their little happy butts in jail. Okay.
That's what I want, Roseanne. I
That's,
want every, it doesn't matter, Republican or Democrat. I want all corrupt
you,
politicians, people to pay,
that's right.
justice to be served. And
That's
we need to put guardrails back up.
that. Oh, are you good? Oh, you're perfect. We got to stop, get rid of the electoral college. We got to have
Absolutely.
limits for all the federal offices, and we have to stop all this insider trading for all these federal offices and the administration and all these people who are supposed to be in charge. We got to have integrity and courage and honesty, and that's what we got to have. And we got to tell people.
And accountability, like like Jen Express just said. Look, the law. If the law, what you just identified is the biggest Yahoo or Eureka of all. We got two layers of justice. We're all accountable to the law.
And they
The
got,
guys paying for the law are above the law. That's all there is to it.
yeah.
It's on both
So
sides, and both sides, everybody just needs to be held accountable.
that's right. You got it. Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Roseanne. Thank you, Pat.
Listen, we're going to make this go viral. Okay. Can we do
Okay,
that? We're going to do it. All right.
let's make her go viral, man. Let's spread the word.
You got it, baby.
Word, sister. See you guys later.